So I think it's safe to say that 2021 started off with quite a bang, at least for the games I cover. I mean, we got a new trailer for FNAF Security Breach, and a Little Nightmares trailer literally within days of each other. So we've had, 4 trailers now? Along with the 2 demos and gameplay clip, which honestly does feel like a bit much. Like, basically the entire game has been revealed to us. We've seen most of the forest, school, and hospital stages, along with a fair portion of the city from the trailers. And most, if not all, of the characters. So unless Tarsier has something big up their sleeves, which seems unlikely at this point, basically all the major plot points of the game have been revealed. Which again, seems a bit excessive. In my opinion, it's like those movie trailers, where they just show so much of the movie in the trailer, it's like, what's even the point of watching it? It seems a bit similar with Little Nightmares 2. Like, come on, I like some surprises. Okay, so anyway, since there is a new trailer, let's go ahead and take a look at it, cause I really need content right now. Okay, so the first shot is of Mono falling through a TV and into a house. Now, I believe that the house he falls into belongs to the janitor, and there are several reasons that I think this. The first of which being is the armchair is on top of a bookcase. Well, the desk is on the floor. And as the janitor does have some long Twizzler arms, he definitely need a desk to be much lower down to reach. More evidence backing up this being the janitor's house is the file cabinets, which are very tall as so only the janitor could reach. I also did some digging and found out that the only other place you can find these tall cabinets in all of Little Nightmares is the janitor's room from Little Nightmares 1. And during Mono's fall, you can very briefly see the janitor's hat flash by, along with the fact that in the janitor's character description, it said he fled the world and found the Maw, meaning that he must have at some point lived on the mainland, quite possibly in the Pale City. Alright, now if you look in the next shot, you can see a mannequin slumped over in a wheelchair as the camera zooms out. The mannequin appears to be locked behind bars. Now if you listen in the background, you can hear a clanging noise, which sounds like one of the mannequins is trying to escape. Now if you remember back from that hospital demo that I never got to play because I'm not a big YouTuber, please subscribe, you can see that there was a lot of these mannequin creatures that were struggling to get out of cages. So if that thing breaks out, Mono and Six are definitely gonna have some trouble later. Now in the next shot, Mono and Six are getting off a raft through the ocean, and entering what is most likely the Pale City. Okay, so here's your dose of random speculation for the day. What if Little Nightmares 2 actually takes place at the same time as Little Nightmares 1? Sorta. So we see Six and Mono washed up on a beach in multiple trailers, presumably having rafted across the ocean on this door here. But we know that the entire game takes place on the mainland, so how come they're out in the ocean? Well, we know that about halfway through the game, Six goes missing and it's just Mono. We also know from the comics that Six was taken by the ferryman to the Maw, so maybe a section of the game is going to be rescuing Six from Little Nightmares 1 after she gets taken to the Maw. Next we see Mono pushing around a shopping cart in some sort of store, seemingly the same store that got raided by the townsfolk in the last trailer. Please go watch my theory on the townsfolk, which should be linked in the iCard. I worked pretty hard on that, and I definitely think it's worth a watch. Anyway, if you look closely in the background, you can actually see one of the same types of dolls that the lady was holding back in Little Nightmares 1. Meaning that the lady has either been to the mainland recently, or if the janitor is the one making these dolls, as it was hinting towards in the Little Nightmares DLC, that the Maw is some sort of product supplier for the Pale City. Next we see one of the townsfolk behind a shower curtain, presumably having his soul ripped out as he takes a lovely bath. You know, as you do. Here Mono is turning on a flashlight, presumably to freeze one of the mannequins, as you can see all of the mannequin parts behind him. Next we finally get to see the school children in action, behaving like a pretty normal group of middle school boys right here, and it seems Mono is using one of their porcelain masks to cover up his face, to keep from getting found out by the students. Another thing I noticed is that these porcelain children do not, in fact, seem to be real children, but actually soul-infused dolls, as if you look at their head-smashing animation from the other trailers, trailers, and even where the one with the gnome dunce hat falls over, you can see the black particles signifying that the soul of the child is spilling out. And yeah, in case you're new to this channel, we've talked a lot in previous theories about how these black smoky particles here represent souls in the Little Nightmares universe. Also, this one kid is smashing another kid's skull open over a frying pan, which, yeah, that pretty much checks out for middle school boys, too. Okay, so in the next scene we get to see Mono sucked into this fleshy eye portal intestine looking thing through a TV. We'll talk a bit more about this in a second. In the shot after that, we get to see the hanging man coming through a TV to chase Mono as he breaks down the door with an axe. Now this room actually looks very similar to the room at the end of the very first trailer for Little Nightmares 2, and at the end of the Runaway Kids DLC teasing the second game. Now we can finally see a ton of townsfolk out on the streets of the Pale City staring at the tower, their souls having become so reliant on it that they can't even seem to go outside without constantly needing the signal, their bodies being transformed into soulless husks that do whatever the signal tower commands. Okay, so in this last shot of the trailer, Mono is standing in front of a door, presumably entering the signal tower. Now there are two things to note here. The first is that the shot very closely parallels the one from the end of the first Little Nightmares, with the character standing in front of this huge gaping doorway, and the inverted color schemes. Now the second is that the color of the purple light roughly matches the inside of the intestine thing from earlier. So what if this is the inside of the signal tower? What if the signal tower is a living, breathing entity? I saw this one comment on my last video that was talking about how the souls could actually be feeding the signal tower, and I think this guy may have a point. What if the souls are just feeding back into the signal tower? The flesh and eyes seen inside a mass of souls melted together. So the interesting thing is that this seems to be where all the eye symbols are coming from, and what they represent. Now here's the thing, the eye symbols are not just in the Pale City. They can be seen throughout the nest, the maw, and the city. So what if in turn for souls, the signal tower was giving the people who fed it power over life and death? This would explain why the lady has the soul collecting power, and why it looks the same as the signal tower in Thin Man's power. Because after she took the guest's souls, she was presumably feeding them to the signal tower. Okay, so one more thing regarding to all of the power in Little Nightmares coming from the signal tower. We know that the lady is the only person we know of who is able to turn children into gnomes. Yet in Very Little Nightmares, there they are. There's gnomes everywhere. And we know that the hanging man has some relation to the nest based on these portraits. So what if, when the hanging man resided at the nest, he was the one turning those children into gnomes? Okay, so one more thing. Now recently, some very interesting information has been revealed by the Little Nightmares developers that could possibly confirm my last Little Nightmares theory, which again, you should 100% watch. I worked really hard on it, and I think it came out pretty well. Anyway, my theory relating to the townspeople's souls getting sucked out, whose names have in fact been revealed to be the viewers. Now, a few days ago, Little Nightmares posted this on its Twitter account. Now, in this image, it showed one of the viewers' heads getting sucked into the TV, and then it showed its hands pressed up against the glass, possibly showing the soul trapped inside the TV. Now, perhaps the most damning piece of evidence confirming this theory actually comes from a response to Little Nightmares fan art that Little Nightmares made on Twitter. Someone made fan art of one of the viewers getting sucked into the TV, and something flowing into her from the TV. Now, Little Nightmares actually responded to this saying, "Stunning art, but if we could offer one small correction, reverse the flow." Obviously referring to the flow of whatever's going into the viewer. So then it would be getting sucked out. And I mean, you can't really get much more cut and dry than that. So yeah, I probably got a Little Nightmares theory correct. And if that isn't a reason to subscribe, then I really don't know what is. So why don't you go down there and click that red button if you want to stay up to date on the latest news of the random assortment of games I talk about. Oh my god, what is going on with my hair? I need to wear a hat next time, jeez. Okay, bye.